Are you ready for this? I'm going to redesign college so it's free, almost. It's going to be so close to free you barely can tell the difference. Now, I would not call this like a brilliant, innovative, new idea that nobody ever had. The only claim I'm going to make is it's more like a prediction, because this is all easy, right? Don't you know that there will be a Yelp for college classes that are online, and other classes? You know that's coming, right? It's just too obvious that that would someday exist. The way you can tell a good idea from a bad idea is if, in its bad form, before it's even engineered to be good, if in its bad form it already gets people to do something with their bodies. This morning, got on Twitter and I saw that Donovan Loomis, who's been on my Periscopes, had taken my whiteboard that I just sort of scratched the ideas on and turned it into a proper graphic. So if you can come up with an idea that causes somebody on the other side of the planet, and literally Donovan's in South Korea, he's literally on the other side of the planet, if on the other side of the planet somebody's body is moving, like literally physically, the body is doing something, that is a really strong indicator of something that will grab other people's attention as well. How could you make college almost free and way better? And here's how. So I'm going to call it free, meaning that it's almost free. Nothing's free. But it goes like this. You would first develop a Yelp-like search engine for classes. And the Yelp search engine would be able to search on any platform. So even within a subscription service, it would be able to search for a specific class. So if, let's say you wanted to take a specific class, you could look at the ratings and you could say, oh, there's one on YouTube, but there's a more highly rated one on Udemy. So Udemy, I don't know how you say that. So you go there instead. How hard would it be to build a Yelp search engine for individual classes? Not that hard. That's well within the range of stuff we do, right? Let me fix this. By the way, I'm dyslexic as hell. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that, but just one of my many oddities. But that was actually just a spelling error, not dyslexia. So here's my idea. I would like to create a major that's useful. We all know that higher education evolved over time, and because it just sort of evolved and got ossified and just doesn't need to change, it just didn't change, and it's just a mess. So I would like to invent a major, which is the major that would be free. So you'd start with this, and then if it works, you could expand it to other majors especially. Well, I would invent a major called Life Strategy. And Life Strategy would be a not too deep dive, but all of the good stuff, the 80% that matters that you can get quickly, in these and maybe other situations. So every skill requires communication, persuasion, economics. Statistics, I don't mean in the math sense necessarily. You could do a little math. But mostly I'm talking about practical statistics. An example of that would be the idea of diversifying your portfolio. That's practical statistics. Another example would be having a talent stack, where every time you add a talent that works well together, you multiply your odds of success. So when I say statistics, I mean figuring out the odds of things. This looks like a better chance than this. How do you compare things? That sort of thing. You want to teach people a little bit of design, a little bit of history. History is useful not because it repeats, but because you see a whole bunch of patterns. So the more patterns you see of like, oh, when history was like that, the thing you have to watch for is this thing. So the more patterns you see, the more well-rounded you are. You should learn a little bit about managing, how to hire and fire. Let's see, I can do a better job of lining this up for you. How to hire and fire, a little bit about startups if you want to start your own company. banking and investing, one of the biggest needs, especially in the lower income community, and you hear this from Black Lives Matter and activists in those communities, that people really need to learn how to handle money. You take it for granted if you've been around a family that knows how to do it. You just sort of pick it up by association. But if you've never learned how to manage credit or get a loan or any of that stuff, how would you know if you didn't have anybody you could ask? So you should teach all those basic things, how to stack your skills, a little bit about technology so you'd understand the basics of what's an app, what's the cloud, how do things work together. Now, the details of all this are highly variable, so I'm just giving you the concept. Then we imagine that it's certified. Could be certified by the government. Imagine, if you will, that the government of the United States said, we're going to have one just amazing class. Like, anybody who gets through these classes, you're really going to want to hire. Now, the exception would be, the STEM and some specialties. You still need lawyers and doctors and scientists and stuff. So they're not taking this major. This major is just for the generalists, the people who might want to start a company, the people who are going to go to work for a Fortune 500 company and be trained within some special job, etc. So the idea was maybe the government could certify it, but maybe individuals could. What about me? Could I make one and then certify it? Why not? If all you need is credibility. So, well, I don't have that kind of credibility. Imagine if somebody who did have credibility came up with a set of classes and said, if you do this many hours and these things and meet this checklist, you've got a degree. How long should it take you to get this degree? I say 1 year. I say 1 year. And you could do it at night, you could do it at home. I think this degree is 1 year. Now, if you're full-time, maybe 2 years, part-time or something. So let me make a bold claim, all right? I know you like it when I make cocky, unsupported, bold claims. But that wouldn't be me if I didn't do that, right? Here's my bold claim. You take a group of 100 students chosen randomly from any community except the black community. So it's any other group. You take 100 of them, and I'll take 100 African American students from the poorest school, and let's assume that they have good enough grades so that they could qualify for this. You probably need some minimum standard, probably a high school education, a high school degree. I'll take 100 African American low-income kids, and I'll give them some version of strategy. That's what they'll learn. They might only even be 1 year, but that's what they'll get. And then you let the control group, the 100, everybody else, they take whatever they want. Now you subtract out the STEM people, because they're all going to get good jobs. That ruins the experiment. So in both sides, if anybody's STEM on either side, you toss them out. So you just compare my 100 African American students from a poor neighborhood who have learned solid gold strategy. They understand how to manage money, how to start businesses. They've seen lots of historical patterns. They learned how to network. I forgot to write networking, but networking would be one of the skills that would be up here. They've learned business writing. They can give a speech, and they have these skills. And here's my cocky claim. Check with me in 10 years, and my group of 100 African American students from a poor neighborhood will all be, on average, will be earning more money than the control group. Because the control group took, dumbass college courses. They were taking sociology and anthropology and, French literature and bullshit. And 100 of my hypothetical African American students from a poor neighborhood just got solid gold life strategy that works because of math. It's just math. The math of if you try 10 things, one of them might work, it's pretty strong math. The math of if you diversify your portfolio, you're not going to lose it all by making one dumb gamble. It's just math, right? It's very simple math, but it's just math. And skill stacking, the idea that you can cleverly stack your skills and that improves your odds. Again, it's just math. So you give me the group who runs their life based on the math of life. The things we know are the best stuff. The things that combine best always have the best career potential. The things that let you see the furthest and manage things the most effectively. That's my bet. My bet is I'll give a 1-year education to people, and they will be ahead in income in 10 years. So let me see in the comments, what part of this do you think is impractical? Now, there's an assumed part of it that is unstated, which is that the free market would allow the quality of these classes to continually improve. And some of these classes might be free, like on YouTube, and some of them might be, when somebody says racism, I don't even know how that fits into this conversation. And so some of them might be free, some of them might cost $20 because they're so good. It's like the best rated class for organic chemistry. But organic chemistry is so bad that you'd be willing to pay $20 to get the good one, so you'd have a chance. Would corporations back it? Well, they would if the government gave it credentials, and they would if they saw what the kids were learning, and they would if you had a little bit of a track record to show that those kids perform better. So I think you'd probably have to subsidize it or something for a while just to test it. Somebody said Jordan Peterson had a similar idea. That does not surprise me. No, I would not call this like a brilliant, innovative, new idea that nobody ever had. The only claim I'm going to make is it's more like a prediction, because this is all easy, right? Don't you know that there will be a Yelp for college classes that are online, and other classes? You know that's coming, right? It's just too obvious that would someday exist. So, does it need credentials? Well, it helps. It helps. Accreditation is what I should say, not credentials. Need to add the scientific method in the major. I thought I did have. Thank you for that. I did have the scientific method on my first draft, and I missed it when I wrote it down here. Scientific method, and also networking is the other one that I forgot. And my pen's running out. So there's that. All right. So, what do you think? Where did they learn how to interact socially? That should also be one of the classes. And I know this sounds like I'm making this up, but I swear that was also on the first draft. Social. You can imagine other things too, such as learning how to travel. Yeah, if you were a poor kid and you'd literally never been on an airplane, wouldn't you like a one-day class at least to teach you how do you book a flight? How does anybody fly? There are a lot of things that you just assume that people know, but it's only because you've been around it. If you've never been around it, you'd have no way to know how to book a flight and navigate an airport. You wouldn't even try. Add hypnosis and negotiation. Well, that's actually under persuasion. So each of these categories have subcategories. Communication would include speeches and writing and maybe social media. You could start a school with it. Well, the whole point is to not start a school. The whole point is that you don't need a physical school. But you can't make governments do it. Well, that's true. Could you do it for high school? I think you could. It seems to me that homeschooling is likely to be good. I have, of course, a little bit of experience with kids in school recently. And I'll tell you my personal opinion, which is matched somewhat by the kids themselves. School is kind of a horror. Kids today, I just feel sorry for them because school sounds, from the social perspective, because they're bullies and mean people and everybody's fighting to be liked and stuff, and the pressure. It actually sounds kind of terrible. I mean, I don't know how bad it was when I was a kid, because you forget, you don't really remember exactly what it was like. But I don't remember hating it. And but today it looks like it's just a pretty bad deal. Critical thinking. Did I forget that one too? Damn. I had a logic course up there. I think critical thinking is the better term for it. But yeah. So, but anyway, you see the point, right? You see the point that if you spend a little time, you could come up with a life strategy class that would be better than anything that anybody's learning. So yesterday in my evening Periscope, I outlined a plan for a digital free college, which would involve making a new major, which would be a sort of a life strategy major. It would be comprised of all the subcategories that make you more effective. And I'll just give you some examples. So learning, say, persuasion, communication, economics, business management, design, 20 other things. So the idea was you could create a major that's digital and online. If you had a search engine like a Yelp for classes, it can find you the class online from all the different platforms that have online teaching. And then you could just say, oh, this is my major. Go to the search engine, pick the class that you like based on ratings. Oh, this is the good class. They're all the same class, but some of them are just better than others. So you pick the good one. And it might only cost you a few bucks, and so therefore you have basically free college, and it might only take a year. So it might be a 1-year college degree, and then you get the government to say give it some accreditation, and you're good to go. And I would argue that if you could give me, and I said this last night, so I'll say it in case somebody missed it, I'm going to make a provocative claim. If you were to let me design that major, I could design a major and then present it to, and I'll just pick, for social reasons, it's obvious why I'll do this. If you said, okay, Scott, take your college major, and you can have 100, let's say, low-income black kids from America, and you can run them through this major, and then we'll compare them to people who got to pick their own major, made their way in life a different way. Maybe they went to college, maybe they didn't go to any college because they couldn't afford it. The online one was basically free, it's so cheap. So compare them. Now, subtract from your comparison anybody who went into a STEM field or became a doctor or a lawyer. I'm talking about the people who are preparing for a life that could be an entrepreneur, working in a big company where they train you to be something specific. I'm talking about all the generalists. If you were to compare the generalists who go their own way to the generalist I would train with this new proposed college major that would be sort of the standard major for the people who don't go into specialized fields, I would propose that if you come back in 10 years after they've completed their, let's say it's a 1-year degree, that they would on average be earning far more than the control group. So this is my provocative claim that you could create this major that would give better performance. Now, here's the new point as of today. I don't want to just reiterate what I said yesterday. I've often said that the way you can tell a good idea from a bad idea is if, in its bad form, before it's even engineered to be good, if in its bad form it already gets people to do something with their bodies, and it's the body test. So, for example, let's say you design a comic strip. You decide to become a cartoonist, and you show your friends some comics that you've made. If your friends look at the comics and say, hey, this is great, you should try to do something with this, you have nothing. Because they haven't really done anything. They just talked, and of course they were expected to say something nice. But if you give your friends some comics and say, what do you think? Do you think I can make a career out of this? And your friend says, oh, these are great. Can I make a copy of this? I want to send it to my friend. That passes the body test. Because in order to make a copy and send it to your friend, your body has to be involved. So if you create a product which involves somebody's body spontaneously, you don't have to ask them to do anything. They just volunteer to use their body to do something with this product. you've got a product. All right, so it's one of the most reliable indicators of something that would be good is if bodies are moving in some way. And of course, the Dilbert comic, that was the tell, is that people were literally physically cutting them out of the newspaper and physically putting them on the refrigerator or the cubicle wall. So it was the physicality of it that was the predictor. So after I did my little demonstration about how college could be free, this morning I got on Twitter and I saw that Donovan Loomis, who's been on my Periscopes, had taken my whiteboard that I just sort of scratched the ideas on and turned it into a proper graphic flowchart. Now, in order to take my whiteboard and turn it into a proper graphic that he then tweeted, he had to involve his body. He had to, be looking at the one thing and typing physically, probably a lot of arranging things to get it just right, playing with the fonts. So if you can come up with an idea that causes somebody on the other side of the planet, and literally Donovan's in South Korea, is literally on the other side of the planet. If on the other side of the planet somebody's body is moving, like literally physically, their body is doing something, that is a really strong indicator of something that will grab other people's attention as well. So it's out there now, and let's see if the idea moves any more bodies. And I'll let you know how that goes.